Did I already share audio? I don't know. I guess we'll find out if you can hear drops or not, won't we? But that's not what I was trying to do anyway. I was trying to do this.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to Beerfield, where I am confident that neither of us are in the best shape of our life. I am your host at Beerfield Hop, Chris Hopper, joined by at Beerfield Thury, Dan Thury. Dan, forgot who you were for a second.
We're getting old. Fuck.
That was Hanson.
It was fun. It was there's some pretty cool guys. Very down to earth. You can tell that they are seasoned vets in how to handle fans, because
I'm sure
because they poured for the entire event. They got there like 10 minutes before it kicked off, before VIP showed up, and then they stayed until it was done at 5 o'clock. All right. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
That's awesome.
It was great. And they took every single person that they poured beers for, they took a picture for, and it never looked like they were annoyed or pissed or nothing. They know how to internalize that very well, if that was the case. But they were cool. I got to talk to Zach a bunch. I think they left kind of drunk because they were drinking the beer that I'm having on the show. Because naturally, our collab beer with them, and then all the there was like 30 something breweries and like 5 or 6 distilleries, so they were
only 5 or 6
free stuff. Yeah, only 5 or 6. I
rookie
got
numbers.
A gift from one of them, right?
I got
a gift from one of the local brewery or from one of the local distilleries, because they didn't give Hanson a bottle quick enough. They were gone already before they tried to give him a bottle, so they gave it to me.
I also got a gift from a distillery out in Colorado. So
fun.
They didn't want to fly, couldn't really fly back with open bottles, and said, "Here you go. Here's half of a bottle that we didn't pour." So
how was Bourbon and Brews then?
It was good. 2,700 people. It was hot outside. I wouldn't know. Nice. It was in the air conditioning all day. At the VIP Whiskey House.
It was a fucking nightmare this year, even more than last year. It was
former Blues defenseman and current TV personality Jamie Rivers was in there with us, so that was pretty cool. Hung out with Maker's Mark for the most part there, and it was a good time. Got to see people I've been seeing for years, and good event. Like I said, 2,700 strong, and
Sean.
Yeah.
I like it.
Even at 94 degrees. So good times. All right. We got to finish last week's episode. So sincere apologies about that. We really had no control over that happening. We started with Dan having internet problems, and we ended with mine just giving up on us entirely. And when it ended and I couldn't get it back, what that does with the lazy way that we do this, like there are better ways I can do this. I just choose not to. And because of that, once Zoom decides it's done, and it starts compiling things, and I could have picked back up and edited it together and gone through all that, but that's just not really our style anymore. So I was just like, all right, we're done. And we'll talk about the rest of it today. So we're going to finish up the AFC West, and then we'll talk the AFC North. It's really light news week, so don't want to spend a lot of time on that. So we'll just be talking teams this week. Episode 490, so we're officially into single digits left after next week. Starting next week, I guess. After next week. So that's fun. That's cool. We'll start maybe actually planning something for episode 500. But for now, just roll with us. We'll be in division previews for a while.
That's right.
What's fueling Beerfield?
All right, Dan, what are you bopping on?
I am tasting on Pink Moonlight. So this is the Distill collaboration with the Hanson Brothers Beer Company. This is Hanson's collaborative company, so they do a lot of different work with a lot of different breweries. I think right now Distill is the primary pusher and maker of the Hanson beers, if I'm not mistaken. So this is their Pink Moonlight. This is a hazy IPA with peach.
Nice.
Don't normally do a whole lot of hazies, but I figured this one is special nonetheless. I drove up to the brewery to pick this beer out before traveling to KC a day before. So right now this beer is 1 week old.
Where does the pink come in at with that? Did they use like a pink blue top blend for that? Is that just a
I'm not entirely sure.
A Hanson thing?
It's more of a Hanson thing. So they were workshopping. So they were heavily involved with the recipe of the beer and stuff like that. I mean, obviously we made it, but they were involved with the style, with wanting to kind of, give us an outline of what the can art was going to be, which is what, is what ended up with this. And I think it has something to do maybe with their tour or something.
Sweet.
But
well, as long as none of them get a DUI, it won't get all screwed up. Shout out Justin Timberlake.
Oh my God. Thankfully they have a tour bus. They're smart and all.
Yeah. Like millionaires can pay for drivers?
Surprisingly enough, I know.
Right. Weird how that works.
Right.
No, it's not what it used to be, but you can still probably afford an Uber.
I was able to when I was in KC.
Yeah.
I think a multi whatever an air that he is at this point, he could probably afford a couple Ubers.
Indeed.
Or just his own personal driver. So
all right, I went local. Brian Schubert is close to the same level of celebrity as the Hanson brothers, so I got Mill Pond. So I have their Bridge Lane Munich Helles. So Munich Helles, malty rich German lager, bit of bitterness to it, but
delicious.
The Bridge Lane, or just Helles in general?
Huh?
You said it's delicious, right?
Yeah.
The Bridge Lane.
I haven't had it. I'm saying
style.
That the style is delicious.
Yeah, I agree completely. This is too, by the way. I just was curious if you'd had it or not. I know you make your way down here from time to time.
Yeah, no. I don't know if I've had theirs. I was down there, I think, a month ago, and I thought about bringing some on or about picking some up, but I didn't have my cooler with me. I haven't really brought it this recently with how hot it is. I didn't really want to carry beer.
Yeah. Mill Pond out of Millstadt, Illinois. They just started distributing in Missouri too. So good for them. Yes, absolutely. All right. News. All right, not a lot to get to, but that doesn't mean that there's nothing. Ramondre Stevenson, 4 years, $36 million with the Patriots. 26, so carries him through age 30 or most of his prime. Couple good seasons, not the most efficient, great through contact. It's a commitment to him, so it's good for Dynasty.
It's insane. He's a Jag plus at best. And he gets paid. I think he's like top 10 running back pay. We are clearly beyond the Belichick era in New England, because there was no way in hell that he would have gotten an extension if Belichick was still involved. But at the same time, great for him. I will always root for players to get their bag. Always. Will always maximize profits. You don't have a lot of time in the NFL, and there's far too many greedy white owners that don't need to shell out some money. So congrats to him. Regardless of how I feel about him as a player, it doesn't matter. It's great for him in that front. So,
and really, even as a player, like, he's active in the receiving game. You're one season removed from 1,400 scrimmage yards, and 69 receptions and over 1,000 yards rushing. So, I mean, there were some injuries and definitely a shit show of an offense last year. And if that can bounce back a little bit, it's not unrealistic to see Ramondre Stevenson in that back end RB1 discussion. So,
it's
if
more
they
so
give him
surprising.
volume.
It's more so surprising because after his big season a couple seasons ago, they breed in Zeke. And
that's what I meant by the shit show last year. It was just it was a shit show. But the whole team was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I know. And then they end up Brennan and Gibson, which fits more of a pass catching profile. It just Nolan's probably tipping their hand that maybe they're gonna want to go a little more run focused, run heavy to kind of help offset the obviously very young passing room and receiving core.
It's true. They don't have a Sam Darnold coming in to save their quarterback situation.
Yeah, we do not have a Jacoby Brissett, helping us along the way. So
yeah,
fucking Darnold.
All right. Little news on the Browns. We'll talk about that here in a minute. That's a rumor of how they're setting up an all-season camp that matters to some of the new personnel there. We'll talk about that soon. Denzel Mims to the Jags. Nobody cares. I don't know. James Washington's attempting a comeback. We're talking about player weight. That's the point of the offseason we're in. Jalen Hyatt added weight. George Kittle lost weight. George Kittle's a surgery related though. So.
And they're at tight end U. I think it's this week.
Yeah. Apparently lost about 30 pounds after core muscle surgery.
Damn. Maybe they won't ask him to block as much. It could be a little more lighter on the feet.
Matthew Stafford wants his contract adjusted after recent pay rises in the quarterback market.
He's trying to throw Flacco this situation, bro. You won a Super Bowl a little too long ago. I don't know if you're going to be able to.
Still just 36, but still
he was healthy-ish last year. It was it
wasn't great performance. Wasn't bad. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, he got him to the postseason.
I'll
give him that, even though it was a weak NFC conference. He got him to the postseason. I don't know if I don't. I guess maybe just restructure. Give him more guaranteed money, but have it be gone in 2 years. Give him the Kirk Cousins, treatment.
Yep. Brandon Ayuk's going through it. Posted a video to his Instagram saying they don't want me back, man. About the 49ers.
I mean, he's watching. He's not watching running backs, jag level running backs getting big contracts.
Yeah,
it's all right, buddy. You've been replaced by a parcel.
Yep, you sure have. Also, Isaiah Buggs can go away and never be heard from again. That would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're done. Big T. Higgins, 1 year, $21.8 million. So bridge deal.
I missed that.
Yeah, I did too. 1 year, $21.8 million.
Well, this would be his.
Is that the franchise tag?
It had to be because
they didn't.
He was a free agent.
They didn't term it that way. Like he signed that because they tagged him, right?
Yeah.
And then
they were planning. Maybe they just.
It's a 1 year, $21.8 million deal, which I don't know what the tag dollar amount is, but I mean, that's a bridge deal coming off of an injury related to. That seems like what you'd see in baseball.
I wonder it means they're not using the tag, which means they could use it next year.
Yeah. Well, that'd be kind of screwing himself if he signed a 1 year deal and then didn't take the tag. He's just going to get tagged again. I don't know. Unless that's in his contract somewhere. I don't know. I don't know how I missed that. A bunch of rookies signing, and yeah, I think we're good. Yeah, because there's Lawrence news, and we don't need to rehash that. All right.
Division preview.
All right, on to the So, just to give you an idea where we left off, we actually ended last week's episode on the beer review. So we got through the first two teams, Broncos and Chiefs, in the AFC West, and spent a lot of time talking about the Lawrence contract and everything. Then hit the beer review, and conveniently, after we finished the beer review, that's where things died. So we're gonna pick up with the Raiders. Continue with the AFC West. Quarterback situation, we'll start there. You got a 2-horse race in training camp between Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. I expect Minshew to come out of that and be just reprise his kind of middling QB2 performance.
I mean, I've heard nothing to suggest that it's not going to be Minshew. I've heard nothing about O'Connell. It should be Minshew.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't really seen a whole lot from Connell, so the aspect of you can go with the narrative of we don't, the ceiling is
ceiling's the roof.
Known and the unknown. Yeah, there's a known and the unknown of what he could be. Not to say that he is, because I think we've seen a little bit more from O'Connell last year, but with Minshew, I think you're going to get basically.
You're far enough in.
So yeah, there's no need to.
You're far enough in to know what you're getting, right? You're getting good to very good ball security with middling everything else. It's just solid, high completion
He's not going to give you negatives.
He's not going to give you negatives, but he's not going to win you games. He's like the perfect game manager quarterback.
He is he's a perfect QB 3-4 in your super flex rosters, and actually no need to draft him in single QB leagues.
It's probably a solid QB 2 if you go heavy elsewhere on your super flex rosters too.
I mean, there's going to be teams where that's the case, right?
Yeah.
And you'll probably want to roster both Raiders.
Yep.
They still have Adams. They bring in Brock Bowers. They brought in Michael Gallup. They still have
Jacoby Myers, who had a good season last year quietly. So
it's not a raucous offense. It's not going to blow your socks off. But neither Minshew or O'Connell will likely produce more than 1 week, maybe 2 weeks of QB1 production. But yeah, if you waited late on your second QB, I have no issue with that at all.
All right, let's talk the wide receivers because you mentioned them. We mentioned Davante Adams. He's going in to his age 32 season, coming off on a mediocre offense. Another decently large season. I mean, it wasn't your 15 to 1700 yard Davante Adams or your 1500 yards Davante Adams is tearing everything up type of season, but it still wasn't bad. 1100 yards, 8 touchdowns. I mean, you're not elite tier at that point, but you're definitely in the high end 2, back end 1, T. Higgins type of range at that point with Davante Adams. Do you think that gets? I think it's reasonable to think that gets reprised, right?
I don't think it gets any lower.
I don't either.
I think there's opportunity for Minshew being a little more consistency in the offense. We've seen wide receivers. The true wide receiver once produced with them. We just saw it with Pittman the last couple of seasons with the Colts when he's been their quarterback. So it's still Adams. I mean, Adams is still a very talented receiver. He the way that he plays the position will age well. I'm kind of getting an Adam Thielen vibe from this, where you'll see a lot of last year's production. It's just based around how well the offense can maneuver.
Yeah.
Is he going to get 8 touchdowns? That's the question. I don't know. I don't
know
if the offense is going to.
He's such a weapon there. I think he might, but I wouldn't expect.
I mean, they added a lot of I'm not saying Bowers is going to still. I'm not saying these guys are going to still touchdowns. It's just Adams is getting older, and you're adding in more youth.
Well, I'd be more concerned about Jacoby Myers reprising his 8 touchdown season than I am about Davante Adams being able to do that. So
remember that time where he couldn't score touchdowns?
Yeah, the first 2 years of his career.
We celebrated the fact that he finally scored a touchdown.
Yeah, Jacoby Myers, by the way, will be Jacoby Myers, right? You're 700 to 800 yards, fine for bye weeks, fine for injuries. There will be, probably 3 to 6 touchdowns and not going to dud you most weeks. You're not going to win you weeks. He's a depth player at best on a lot of teams, just so that you have something that to plug in there and work around. So, and I wouldn't expect anything else beyond those two out of the wide receiver core. I don't think that Michael Gallup's going to come in and put up wide receiver 2 type numbers, and there's really nothing behind those three.
Volume.
Yeah.
This is not a volume offense to suggest anyone but
behind
Adams and Myers. Like, even with the tight ends, the fact that Bowers will compete for early touches with Mayer having the extra year on him. It's just like, you're not drafting either of them. You're going to see Bowers get overdrafted probably in redraft leagues for sure.
Because of that.
As if he's going to be.
Yeah.
Because he's the rookie.
They're expecting a year one breakout from a hot name rookie, and that's just not. I mean, that's not to say he won't be a tight end 1, but to expect elite year 1, like, we got spoiled last year.
That's what we're going to base it off.
Yeah.
Too. It's funny enough, someone posted the last 10 seasons of tight end 1 numbers. Laporta in most seasons wouldn't have even been the number 1. He would have been top 3 for sure, but it's just tight end scoring last year was so bad. Not bad. It was pretty record, not record. It was lower compared to most seasons. And you're right. From Laporta being productive, year 2 McBride, we saw a big youth movement.
I forgot it's a Luke Getsy offense.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, I don't know. Adams is going in the wide receiver 20, mid 20s to mid 30 range.
Oh hell, I'd take that all day.
Which is kind of wild, right?
Yeah.
Same time, I'm like, would I be shocked if he finished as a low 2, high 3?
No, but he's being drafted.
He'll
but
probably
he's
pay off at it. Yeah,
being drafted at his floor almost.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of volume, I don't think, but he's still the number 1. He's still one of the league's best route runners. And if Las Vegas does decide to bump up the passing volume, especially with the weakened running back room, they let go of Josh Jacobs and they only drafted Dylan Laub to be paired back up with Amir Abdullah and Zamir White. They brought in Madison, which who fuck cares?
Yeah. Talking running backs, by the way, that's the area here that I don't love. Dylan Laub again he's a popular late draft pick just because there's no depth to this running back class. And Zamir White doesn't have a stranglehold on this, but when you look at the talent around that, it's probably Zamir White's backfield.
It feels like a dead zone running back. I don't really want to
gamble on, but
he had a really nice end to last year. I don't have the same type of faith in that running game, and I don't know how much better Zamir White is compared to Alexander Madison.
Yeah,
to be honest, I don't know if there's much of a difference.
I don't either. I don't want to talk about the Raiders anymore. Can we move on to something that's also pretty ugly?
Please.
All right, Chargers. So what we're taking away from this division is that outside of the Chiefs, it's real fucking ugly.
This used to be the division that you wanted to attack, and now it's literally just the Chiefs. And the Chiefs aren't even that sexy.
Yeah, I mean,
what happened?
There's things that can be sexy, but yeah, this has not gone well. So Justin Herbert, holdover, good. Jim Harbaugh, run first. Greg Roman, run first. Uh-oh. So my first thought on this is you may disagree. You really need to temper your expectations on Justin Herbert this year, given the talent that's been lost on this team, offensive philosophy changes. I don't think he's going to shit the bed, but some of that hero ball upside is not going to show up. This is a team that's in transition right now, and unfortunately, Justin Herbert just isn't really going to have the weapons around him this year or the offensive structure to put up gaudy numbers. So, don't be surprised if we're talking about a quarterback that's closer to 12 than he is to 5.
I've been thinking about this because this is clearly the best quarterback that Roman's ever had in terms of a pure passer, in terms of what he can do within structure, out of structure just outside the pocket, and obviously arm talent. He's never had a quarterback that can really deliver the ball the way that Herbert can, and that's no shot at, RG3 and Jackson as the two big names. It's just the reality. He doesn't have the mobility of those guys, but as a pure, as just a pure passer, Herbert's one of the best. Harbaugh, you go back to, during his time with the Niners, it's Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick. Like, I'm sorry, but none of those two can hold a fucking candle to Herbert's arm level talent. Then you got to go back to Stanford with Andrew Luck. Well, it's college. It's a little different. Obviously, during his time in Michigan, he never had anybody close to the level of Justin Herbert. So the narrative that's being painted here is it's at what point do you just neuter the best thing about your offense? You just paid him. You just got paid this year.
I don't think that they're gonna neuter it, but
it's you're starting to really see it too based on ADP. You're seeing Herbert kind of getting brought down. The entire team is shifted to a point of
it's transitional.
I don't want it. Yeah, it's an odd part. Like, you don't want the receivers, you don't want the running backs. Why would I want Herbert if I don't want anybody else from this team? Yeah. And it's gotten to a point where, like, in redraft, I'm always fine about passing on. He doesn't offer rushing upside. He's not the type of quarterback I target in single QB leagues anyways. And in super flex, I agree with you. It's what does the production, what is the volume of passing going to look like?
If you tell me that he finishes with CJ Stroud or Trevor Lawrence passing numbers this year, I'm not going to be shocked. 25, 26 touchdowns, right around 4,000 yards.
It's just...
So that's pedestrian for... I mean, that's not elite.
And if he can keep the turnovers down the way that those two can't, especially Lawrence, like, that's, as you mentioned, that's back in QB1.
Yeah,
it's great. And if he's going at that range... we know it's upside. If for whatever reason the Chargers get something, like if Quentin Johnston takes next step,
Glad McConkey plays well at all, if DJ Chark finds a fountain of youth, etc. A lot of ifs there, but
or if they do make a trade, like if they're like the team that calls up the Raiders and tries to make a move for Adams, like if they're better than expected or whatever. I'm not saying I will, but it's. I agree with you. I'm seeing the narrative kind of get pushed a little too hard on the other end, and especially for Dynasty, it's just be careful. Don't undersell Herbert because of
no. You don't torpedo him, but you do need to pull it back just a little bit. We're talking a guy that I think is probably QB4, QB5 during a discussion most years, and I'm saying that you're dropping him back to the 10 to 12 range now. You're not dropping him out of QB1 range or anything like that. I mean, the defense here could be decent, but yeah. As far as the receivers go, Josh Palmer's the holdover with productivity when he's been called up on to actually do things. You got to be careful with that too, though, right? Because he has just been an injury fill-in, a bye week fill-in. You've seen some pop-offs, whatever, but you can't necessarily extrapolate that, especially if he's the one, not Johnston or McConkey, that ends up seeing top-end coverage. That's a completely different ball game than what he's used to dealing with Keenan Allen on the field. So you got to be careful with that. For Johnston to take a big step, it would have to be a big step. I'm not betting on it year one to year two just because even when there was opportunity last year, there were zero flashes of there being anything.
He started 10 games last year.
Yeah, there's no flashes of anything.
He literally produced a similar stat line to Josh Palmer, who started 6 games and played 10. Like, the big conversation is you have 224 targets gone between Eckler and Allen. No, I don't change. I don't chase the vacated targets because we have zero idea
how this offense is going to run. It's not 1-to-1.
Yeah, it's not at all. And Herbert threw the ball 699. The team itself threw the ball 632 times last year.
He could easily just 100 of those targets could just evaporate because they're not going to throw the ball 700 times in like they did in 2022 or even last year 450 times over 13 games. Yeah. Like you tell me that he's throwing 100 fewer passes than 2021 or 2022. Yep, I'm bought in. That's still over 550. Hell, 150 of those targets could evaporate into thin air, and I wouldn't be surprised at this offense.
Honestly, yeah, you can get rid of the Keenan Allen 150, and I think people would not be shocked. This is why you don't trace fake-headed targets.
Right.
The least also don't have a Keenan Allen on.
Not when you go through a full offensive overhaul like that.
No, it's I think somebody will step up. I think we will get fantasy relevancy from one of these, maybe even at times two of these receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the Chargers playing from behind. This isn't a great team overall. This is always the defense looks good on paper, but they're never healthy. That's the type of defense that almost always seems to be a part of this team. And the division isn't as shootout heavy as we all thought, right? The Chiefs have a dominant defense. They don't need to push the ball. They don't need to push as much. Broncos aren't. The Raiders aren't. So this division really isn't sexy to attack, which means there's a lot of divisional games that you're not going to be excited about.
Yeah.
There's 6 here because I don't know. Like I don't know if I'm counting the Chiefs, right? And this could be one of those. It could be a down year for Herbert, or it could be this is kind of the we're going to see greatness if he can kind of match what he did his first 2 years.
I'm betting on a down year. And statistically. And I don't.
The offense not helping them.
Palmer is probably going to be your most consistent receiver, and that's not an endorsement. He's a wide receiver 3, and if you believe in Johnston, great, you take him late. If you believe in McConkey, great, you take him late because there is quarterback talent here, but I mean, even the tight end position, you haven't added a lot in the way of pass catchers. Will Disley's a block first tight end. You put in Hayden Hurst, I guess. And at running back, like you don't have a running back that's a prolific pass catcher. It's not how Edwards and Dobbins got shit done. They're runners. And by the way, it's Dobbins and Edwards again, so you can sign up for the Gus bus because Dobbins is never healthy.
He's hurt too.
Yeah.
He's hurt now too. So yeah, I mean it's an offense that there's going to be a lot of I told you so's if they struggle, but it could be like Houston where nothing looked good until it was. Yeah. Nico Collins wasn't fucking anything until
CJ Stroud was.
Happened. Obviously Herbert's there. He's been there, but a whole new change of offense and offense philosophy and just a whole new team environment's changed from moving on from Brandon Staley and the shit show that he created to now Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
A little more structure.
Yep. All right. We're going to switch over to the AFC North here. We'll get through about 2 of these and then do a beer review. Start with the Ravens. So we know Lamar. We don't got to spend a lot of time on that. We know Mark Andrews. Don't got to spend a lot of time on that. You're looking at top 3 tight end, a top 2 quarterback, probably, definitely top 3. Even at the
fantasy, he's always going to be top 5 at the very least.
At the very least. Even at the receiver position, you've got a situation here where not much changed, right? People are expecting, Bateman to maybe take a step forward. Zay Flowers was the guy last year, and he, unlike Rashee Rice, who I tie them 2 together because they're similar in ranking before the draft and performance, has stayed out of trouble. So 108 targets for Flowers last year, 858 yards, 5 touchdowns. That's easily repeatable, if not growable, at that point for him. So feel pretty confident about that. Dan, you're a Bateman truther. Do you believe Bateman takes a big step forward? Do you believe that the volume is going to be there for him to do that? Even with Todd Monken, right? This is still an offense that didn't really throw the ball a whole lot. Only 457 attempts from Lamar, so still not hitting that 500 attempt mark.
It was Lamar's career high by 56. He threw 401 passes in his first MVP season.
Yeah.
His first MVP, first full year as a starter. Won the MVP last year. The offense was good as offense was. You don't chase really anything. If they expect more from Bateman, that's going to eat into the overall volume today. And then with a healthy Andrews, you get Keaton Mitchell coming back from his injury. Lamar, I think, dumped off a lot more last year. When you have an explosive running back like Mitchell, helps with that. Again, healthy Andrews. You have Nelson Aguilar, who was productive for this team last year. I don't love any receiving option because there isn't enough volume to support that. Because Lamar isn't a quarterback that wants to pamper any of his target guys.
Right.
At all. That includes Andrews. You got to be even careful with him.
Yeah. And again, that's the context you need when we say that we like Flowers. I mean, Zay Flowers looks really good because we just got done talking about the Chargers, but Zay Flowers is still, I mean, you look at the overall performance, it's probably comparable to what we just said with Jacoby Myers, not what we were talking about with Devontae Adams. So, it may go up a little bit, but not a lot. Lamar is still not going to have to throw the ball 500 times, and we thought with Monken coming in that maybe that would be different, and it wasn't. Now the biggest change.
Go ahead. There's also the idea of this is that the Ravens had one of the league's best defense last year. The defense took a hit this year in free agency. This is the price it pays. They lost both their coordinators. But they lost their defensive coordinator. I don't know if they lost their OC. I don't think they lost. They kept Monken.
Monken's still there.
Their defensive coordinator. Yeah. So they lost their defensive coordinator. The defense is going to take a hit next year.
They promoted in-house though too, so there's continuity.
True, and there might not be, but they're gonna need people to step up. The defensive back room is getting older. This is more so the actual outside corners that obviously Kyle Hamilton is just fucking insane. But it's the only way this passing volume goes up is if you're getting just better offensive play from within that division, from a healthy, Cincinnati team with Burrow back and Chase healthier. If Pittsburgh takes the next step, if Cleveland continues to be Cleveland, I don't think it matters. They're always going to be run first. I'm not banking on Lamar throwing 500 times. If Lamar threw the ball over 500 times, it's probably because Baltimore is losing games and struggling. This team, even with Monken, and Monken did the same thing. It's not. We expected a little bit more because his best player is now Lamar Jackson, not the running back that he's always had. But at the end of the day, this is still the best dual threat quarterback.
We'll get to that running back here in a minute.
Yeah, and it's more so what Lamar does to defenses is what puts stress. Lamar is becoming more and more comfortable, and it's becoming better at anticipating and reading what the defense expects him to do. And that's just great for overall if you're a Baltimore fan. But you're not going to see a massive uptick in throwing. Maybe you do see 50 more passes and he does reach 500. And maybe Zay Flowers is a wide receiver too, and with a little more consistency. But to your point about Bateman or anybody else, no. And I also don't think Flowers will be either because he's not a big play guy.
No, you're in more of that wide receiver 3, and there'll be some volume weeks for him, and he'll get some touchdowns, but you're in firm Jacoby Myers territory. The biggest loss on the defense was Patrick Queen. So you do lose that a bit, but, I mean, secondary's intact, right? Especially Kyle Hamilton.
Guys getting a little older. Their 2 starting guys aren't. I forgot who they took this year in the first round. It may have been another defensive back.
It was Nate Wiggins.
Yeah, out of Clemson. That's right. Injected youth to to a defensive back room outside of Kyle Hamilton. That's a bit older.
Humphrey's the only old guy on start.
They had older use.
Marcus Williams. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's only 4 of them to start, so yeah, it makes sense.
Right. And that makes sense because Humphrey's a nickelback. Wants to be a big rock star. Let's talk about the backs. So we just mentioned that Edwards and Dobbins are gone. Gus Edwards has been the failsafe for this offense for a long time. He was never the guy, but the guys in front of him constantly getting hurt, and he was kind of the stopper there. They bring in Derrick Henry to replace that. They re-sign Justice Hill, who's been here, and are banking on Keaton Mitchell being healthy, who proved to be very, very explosive when he was playing. So Derrick Henry coming here first. Look, there's an offense that wants to run the football. Derrick Henry's carried a big workload, and he lands in a spot that's completely designed for what he's carried. But age 30 season, right? He's got three of the last 5 years. He's had over 300 carries. You wonder when that's gonna wear down. He's a double-digit touchdown guy. I think he's absolutely fine in this offense. But you're expecting more last year than 2022, just because Lamar's going to run a good amount, and they'll mix in some other guys. I don't think he's getting 350 carries, but 300
if
realistic.
And efficiency,
if he's healthy,
his efficiency, if he stays healthy, should go. Just this is a better offensive team.
Mm-hmm.
Like to have a quarterback like Lamar, to have Monken, who's a pretty smart OC and crafty play designer, there's gonna be some pretty big Derrick Henry games. I think ADP for best ball has been typically second round, so you're not getting a bigger discount on him leaving or him getting older.
Nor should you.
But this feels like we're gonna get at least one really good season. I think you're gonna see the best time for them to kind of really test the wheels of Henry is gonna be this year. And I think we're gonna see that. I think they're gonna give him the rock a bunch, like especially goal line. This is gonna help Lamar not have to do so much, and maybe you see Henry get a little bit more involved in check downs or something like that. If Jackson's starting to read the field, even better than what he was. Henry, oddly enough, kind of added that to his game. Yeah, I think over the last couple of seasons, once Tennessee's offense started to dissolve. So I'm not expecting 350 like you said, but I think he can get to 300.
Yeah,
and I think that's where Baltimore feels the most comfortable. And in terms of Keaton Mitchell, I mean,
it's health dependent.
We'll see health dependent, and we'll see how long it takes for him to get back up to full speed.
Yeah, and if anything happens to Henry, then that's full speed. But he's probably more of a waiver pickup than anything.
Yeah, I think Henry's locked to at least get 10 plus touchdowns. I think he's going to pay off on that RB2 easily. Probably low in RB1. It depends on the receiving volume, but I mean, he hasn't caught a touchdown pass since 2018 or since 2019. Maybe that changes this year. Maybe he gets his first receiving touchdown in 6 seasons.
All right. Bengals. We can make this quick.
Yeah.
There's 2 things that have changed. Tyler Boyd's gone. That's around the edges. You're going to have competition for that wide receiver 3 spot, and it may not even be a single guy that takes it. They drafted Jermaine Burton. A lot of people like the talent and his ability to fill in. Injuries last year, it was Andre Yoshevitz that kind of stepped into that role. Trent Irwin's also been there for a bit and been productive. Those are the 3 guys that you're watching for that wide receiver 3. That'll be a camp battle to watch, and we'll see what happens. You could really make the argument for all 3 of them. Burton on that 3rd round capital and the overall talent, despite some of the off-field concerns. And then, Yoshevitz and Irwin, just veteran familiarity. Yoshevitz, 2nd-year player. But
I think it's going to be Yoshevitz anyways. I think
I love
Burton's
him.
going to be more of the outside. I know you do. Like, I think Burton's going to be more of the outside, backup case. I mean, Burton maybe second half of the year, but I think it starts with Josevich.
I hope so, because that will be fun for me. But again, you're talking wide receiver 3-4 type guy at that place. You're not talking, between Higgins and Chase. You're not talking somebody that's going to be upwards wide receiver 2. Mike Gesicki comes in at the tight end position, as well as rookie Eric All. We had seen a little bit of production out of this. It's that mess of tight ends though, and it's Mike Gesicki. So that you can
not care.
If you've been playing fantasy football for any length of time at all, you can mind meld Mike Gesicki and average together, and that's what you expect out of that position.
And you'll still be disappointed somehow.
Yep. The other big change here is going to get a lot of people talking as running back. So Joe Mixon no longer here. It's Zach Moss and Chase Brown. And I guess if people still believe in Travion Williams, I do not. So it's Chase Brown, Zach Moss. Zach Moss signed out of Indy. Terrible in Buffalo. Did some really good work as a runner last year, spelling Jonathan Taylor. And then Chase Brown, great receiving profile, all-purpose back, got some run late last year. I'm on Chase Brown. At worst case scenario, I think he gets passing downs. Best case scenario, he's just the guy.
This feels like Buffalo circa 2021, where it was Moss because no one liked Devin Singletary, and then
it was just Singletary.
Moss was absolute dog shit target, and it just ends up being Singletary the whole way. I do think Moss has gained a bunch of confidence from the success he got to get in Indy last year. I think that does trail over. He doesn't have a big body Josh Allen to take over work. He is bigger. I think he's bigger than Chase Brown. Maybe. I know
Moss
taller. I want to say Moss is bigger than Brown, so that
he is. Chase Brown's still.
I'm not saying Chase Brown's small, but
no, he's not, because Chase Brown's like right around 220. No, Chase Brown's 5'10", 209. Moss is bigger.
Yeah, so Moss will probably get the edge to goal line work, which should give him the edge to start the fantasy season if you're drafting. When it comes to backfields like this, and I'm not a fan of Moss to begin with, but I recognize his value. Mm-hmm. If it's there, you're still going to take the cheaper back. You're still going to take Chase Brown. It's just I
want Brown for the receiving upside too, honestly. So
I think Brown is definitely more of your double digit round back, because there is a very much a real scenario in which this flips to just Zach Moss, and mm-hmm. Brown is very much a spell back, one injury away back. But this could very much be, if what we saw from Moss last year translates to an offense that could be similar and better overall than what he had in Indy. If everyone stays healthy, then Moss will get first crack. And if there's value in that, in a healthy Burrow season, healthy Burrow, healthy Chase, Higgins has a lot to play for and play on right now in a more condensed offense. And I like both. I want to dabble my hands in both. I want to try to, because I do believe in Cincinnati's offense. I do believe that this is a scoring offense you want to have a running back a part of. And if one of Moss or Brown can really put a stranglehold on the starting role, then you have a low-end RB1
for
the rest of the year. And there's value when they're probably going in 8th round plus.
And, what I wanted to point out is in 16 games or more a season, the target low for Joe Mixon was 45. The Bengals are traditionally a team that does use the back in the receiving game. Zach Moss's career high in targets is like 25. Chase Brown.
Yeah, but Chase Brown wasn't also used. I think he wasn't used in the passing game in Illinois, was he not? I think he was primarily just put the ball in his hands and watch him work.
I'm pretty sure he was involved in the passing game. I'm checking that because, for whatever reason, it's just one of those things I put in my head. I had in my head that he was dual purpose. And
he had 27 receptions.
50, he had 58 receptions, 500 yards, 3 touchdowns. So, yes, but no, I guess.
8.9. So he had 21 catches in his senior year with with Illinois.
27 for 240.
240 yards, 8.9 yards per
Yeah.
catch. He's not special. He's a guy that
When
when called upon, he could
It's Rashad White.
Now, Samaje Perine became a third down back, and no one fucking saw that coming. So
No.
I'm not saying it's not Brown or Moss. I'm just saying once we get that information, probably in the preseason game or within the first couple of weeks in the regular season,
We'll see what happens.
sure.
But my
Yeah,
preference is still tilting Brown.
Brown, yeah. I want Brown too.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that just because we like Brown more does not mean that Moss is not draftable. Like,
No, I never said Moss
unless
wasn't
Moss
draftable.
gets like a, yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying.
I think
just
Moss is
sometimes
like
it's
I think Moss is likely drafted higher, and that's fine. But
Moss is for sure going to be drafted before Brown. It's just where does that start? Like, here, I'll see if there's any ADP. I know it's a little early, but we're in the middle. We're in the middle late of June. There might be some shit out there. If I can, here it is. Let's see what that looks like right now. Would I have to have a premium to do this? The fuck? So you have to pay for FF Calc now. They use your ADP data. Oh, never mind. Let's see, Zach Moss. This makes for great air. Yeah, there's something up. Yep.
all right,
Yeah, there's something.
great. Peer review.
Peer review.
Beer review.
All right, Dan, go ahead. Bought me with your.
Again, I'm gonna taste this. So again, I'm drinking pink moonlight. So I think they've done this for a handful of years now. So originally this was a milkshake IPA with peach. Really, really glad that they did not do that again. So again, hazy IPA with peach. If you're a traditional hazy drinker, the one thing you're gonna notice that it's not super orange juicy. It's not really thick. You get more of where I like my hazies to be, and it's not overly acidic or just like you're chewing the hops effectively. And peach is subtle. It's more on the nose than it is on the mouth. And you're gonna get your traditional, hop aromas in hop, in the fruity profiles, your citrus and stove fruit profile. It's a really good, it's a good sipper. It clocks in at 7%. So it's the truly traditional single hopped or single IPA hazy where it's not really heavy. But it does fit in that if you like hazies, I think it's done well. I think this still does extremely well done hazy IPAs if that's what you want to go with. And I think if you find yourself getting your hands on this, which is pretty hard to do right now, if you're not in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or if you're not at the brewery in Normal, Illinois, but if you get a chance to try it, I think it's worth it. It's fine.
All right, as a reminder, I had Mill Pond's Bridge Lane, which is their Municellis, and it's good. One of the calling cards.
It's good.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna give a little more than that. One of the calling cards
I love it.
is rich maltiness, and a lot of Hellas's kind of miss that mark, and it's more of like a traditional like crackery type maltness, or just not there, or completely overshadowed by the hops. This one gets that part right. You're greeted with a warm malt note that isn't overpowering. That is, it's nice and bready, but it's not caramely or sweet or anything like that. It's a melanoid character that can only be described as rich, but not overwhelming. Hops come in, give it a nice balance. It finishes clean. semi-dry, good amount of bitterness to it. Everything's in check with this beer. If I had to gripe about anything, it's hazy, which is actually for German lagers okay. You just call it a Keller beer. And by that, I just mean it's a little, like, there's chill haze to it. It's not, like, impressive clarity or anything like that, but it's a really good beer. So, props to them. One of the better ones that I've had. All right, Browns. Again, we can kind of keep this. Yeah. So, Sean Watson, we thankfully, mercifully, not really been blessed by him
Mercifully.
recently. Jameis Winston comes in to back him up ahead of Tyler Huntley and DTR, so solid backup in place there. Look, Watson still has, I'm imagining, some good performances in him, especially with this wide receiver core being decent, good tight end. He's got good pieces around him that have the potential to play well, but it starts with him, and that's not been the case since he's come back from his missed season. He's been hurt. There's been questions about his overall motivation after getting the big contract, and he's just not necessarily performed. So, you bet on Watson. You're betting on him coming into back in QB1 discussions, and more power to you. I want to avoid it.
It's his time in Cleveland is literally career lows in all the categories you want him high in, and career highs on the categories you want him low in. It's look, he still provides some rushing upside. It's not the type of offense for him to fully excel in. Like, that's not how Stefanski runs. It's not how the offense wants to operate through him, and with them already struggling, I don't know. It's going to go down as, like, if it wasn't for Wilson, this would be the most talked about trade blunder.
It would be.
And I arguably think it's worse, just given the context of the situation when it happened, the fully guaranteed money, and at least Wilson was coming off. I mean, Wilson was a Hall of Fame quarterback before he was traded to Denver. It was just at the right time for him to continue his time in Seattle. Everything kind of went wrong at the wrong time for them.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that never worked out, and he's gone. And it wouldn't shock me if he finds success in Pittsburgh, where Watson finds
the sex in Pittsburgh, huh?
Finds the sex in Pittsburgh. Whereas in Watson's case, I don't think anyone's going to give him that.
No.
I think anywhere. This is going to be talked about historically, just once he's out of the NFL, and once this has been given time to breathe, and people literally go back and look at it. This has been terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and the team's 8-4 during the times he's been healthy and playing. He's played 6 games in both of them. His team's winning games, obviously, in spite of him not playing particularly.
It's a really good defense.
Yeah, historically, especially last year. Do I think it could get better? Sure, right? He's, just beside my personal feelings about him, like, there's value into him, what he used to be. And as you mentioned, the receiving core here is very good. It's got good tight ends. Nick Chubb's back and healthy.
Yeah.
Like, everything that's coming back to this place was like already in place, right? There are a lot of returning, that their best players on offense are returning, and there's value in that. And Watson was 5-1 last year as a starter. Like, he's gonna play. Like,
you'll get fantasy points for wins
unless he gets hurt. You don't, but you stay in the field if you win games. So there's value into that. And
if being on the field's the only qualifier, Zach Wilson had a hell of a season last year.
He had great, yeah. And there were times where I think Zach Wilson was better than Deshaun Watson, which is fucking wild to think and say. Hell, Joe Flacco was better than Deshaun Watson last year. Let's not lie. And Jameis Winston, maybe we'll see Winston get a crack at this.
We might. You mentioned the wide receivers coming back, and that is true. Elijah Moore, Amari Cooper back. Joe Jeudy slides in and replaces Landry.
Peoples-Jones.
Peoples Jones.
Landry, he's been gone.
DPJ.
So is Peoples Jones. He's been gone too.
So
I don't know.
I don't even know what Jerry
Anthony
Jeudy.
Swartz. I don't know.
I guess.
Man. I don't really care.
Jerry Jeudy is going to have to earn his target volume here amongst Elijah Moore and Amari Cooper, and it's not going to be a guaranteed thing. In Denver, you kind of got fed a bit, and that's really not going to happen here. I'm out on Jerry Jeudy. I don't think the breakout happens here.
Yeah,
you were not.
I'm good.
Amari Cooper is still going to be fine, and that's what you're running at is a wide receiver 2. That's about that. You mentioned Nick Chubb being back healthy after the knee injury. He should be. We'll see how quick that takes off. Still one of the best pure runners in the league. If for any reason he's slowed, it's Deonta Foreman, and then
Jerome Ford is the pass catcher
with Naeem Hines there too.
Ooh.
So
and David Njoku, I like 3 of these guys, both more. Elijah Moore and Njoku Cooper all went over 100 targets.
Yeah,
and it took historic efforts from Cooper to get 1,000 yards, over 1,000 yards last year.
But he did it.
It would have been pretty fucking tight otherwise. But yeah, I don't. But he got there, and that's all it matters.
Yeah, and Njoku 123 targets, 81 receptions for 880 yards and 6 touchdowns. Really good season for him. Easily his best season as well. So
if he stays healthy, I'm like Watson historically is like to use tight ends too. Like I'm still in on Njoku.
That year 7 breakout.
Hey, tight ends, man, it's a fucking Wild West when shit's supposed to happen for them.
Yep. Still just 27. So
that's so wild to me.
Yeah. So he's
in his prime.
He's draftable. You're looking at him in kind of that, tight end 4 to 7 range where it gets a little messy. People are going to jump high on McBride and Laporta and Andrews and, whoever else. So
Travis Kelce.
He's in
potentially Kittle, especially if Ayuk's not playing, like or he gets traded. Like
he's kind of in that tier after those guys go.
It's almost in that spot where like I'm just gonna wait because tight ends historically in that range just never tend to pay off. But I still
like what we see with like Freiermuth and a few others that just you get a season like that, and then they go right back to what they were doing.
Yeah.
So
you just want the late in, like you want the one that goes in the 8th, 9th, 10th round, not paying up for the 5th and 6th guy.
Yeah.
6th round guy.
All right, last bit we got to talk about is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's start at the quarterback position. Complete overall here. Mason Rudolph is gone mercifully. Mitch Trubisky gone, replaced with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. You got 2 guys coming off of really, really down seasons. Wilson obviously track record of success. Fields obviously all the talent in the world, at least from an athletic standpoint. And those are good. We talked about this at length. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but those are good lottery tickets to have, as we keep mentioning. Wilson will get the first crack at this thing, as he should.
I will still mention. I cannot believe that Pittsburgh got more in return for Pickett than what Chicago got in return for Fields.
I can't either.
To me,
it's criminal.
That's fucking wild. But yes, no, you're right. Wilson gets first crack. We'll see how long that takes. I love Justin Fields. I will not admit that. I think he is their long-term their long-term bridge QB. I think Wilson is just a short stop here for this. But Pittsburgh historically has always been a team that can find itself within the wild card hunt, and Wilson's comfortable with that. I think this entire change from Denver and moving off of this historic trade that he was the clear package piece for, moving away from the dysfunction that was Denver and Sean Payton and Nathaniel Hackett and just everything that had gone wrong to a more just well put together organization. I may shit on Pittsburgh for fun being a Baltimore Ravens fan, but there's a reason why Mike Tomlin's also been, I think he's one of the best coaches of all time just with his consistency. And I think you're going to see a return to form from Wilson, maybe not to the extent of his prime years in Seattle, but I don't I don't know if he gets benched at any point this year. I would be a little shocked, and Fields will have to just eat it. He's like Trey Lance at this point, and we'll see if Pittsburgh wants to invest into him or if he'll get his shot at free agency after this year. Because like Lance, he didn't have his 5th year picked up, so
yep, it'll be a 1 year and see what we got, and
he'll be a free agent next year, and I think Pittsburgh will keep him, but we'll see.
All right, that's the biggest question mark here. When you get into the wide receivers, we kind of know this. Deontay Johnson's gone. George Pickens has shown the makings of a guy that can take the next step and be a 1, and he's going to be their 1 this year. So,
absolutely,
I'm writing Pickens,
and he has one of the best downfield passers of all time.
Yeah,
like Moonball Wilson never really went away. He just didn't really have the offense to do it, and I think Pittsburgh.
No, the corpse of Cortland Sutton was not doing it, but you've got
Jared Judy when he's never healthy.
Right,
Patrick's the same.
But you've got prime George Pickens here, and that's good news. So, how high does Pickens go? I think he can surpass the Higgins line.
I think he'll go between. My guess would be without seeing ADP or knowing best about ADP, without really seeing.
How high does he finish? I guess is what I'm saying. Like, where's his ceiling?
I think wide receiver too. I don't know if Pittsburgh has the volume to support, unless Wiggins goes nuclear and he goes AJ Brown. 2020 with the Titans, where he gets there on just total efficiency and big play. If like Wilson has a Tannehill resurgence and he has career, like if he matches to his boom years in Seattle with probably similar volume, because both teams are have always been kind of built the same in that aspect. Defense first, run first, maybe. But I think it's realistic season
Good
for
Lord.
Pickens as wide receiver too.
Dude had almost 1,150 yards on just 106 targets.
He's AJ Brown light.
Yeah,
and he will have a more efficient passer in Wilson. He can't be
like
Wilson. Like I know how bad he got. Trust me.
You're at
I don't
1,400.
I don't.
You're at 1,407 if he even takes 40 of those vacated Deontay Johnson targets.
It's more so the open, like it's more so does the downfield game get better from, because that's where he's gonna thrive the most. I think we'll see more uptick in his floor targets, but it's the big play for him. Like, how many moon balls? Like, is he going to be the next Metcalf in terms of what he can be with Wilson in terms of his
he's better than DK.
Yeah, like, can he be? Because there's again, he's already had a 200-yard game. Like, that is still in the range of his outcome, and that just got better by being paired with the better deep ball passer.
16th in yak, 16th in unrealized air. Jesus, it's 670 unrealized air yards, and he already had 1,100 yards.
And speaking of the correlation with Tennessee, isn't Arthur Smith the OC in Pittsburgh?
Yep.
Who was the OC in Tennessee during?
Arthur Smith, yeah.
I'm just saying, what we could be watching is an AJ Brown-esque type of massive breakout blowout, because he broke out, but I don't think he's broken out in the same light in terms of being overall talked about it. I think people still don't like the fact that it's Pittsburgh and Wilson, but we could be seeing he could reach wide receiver 1. I think his realistic season, his realistic ceiling is wide receiver 2. But I think there's an absolute avenue for him to be back in 1. And that's probably a little uptick more in volume game and uptick in big play.
Yeah. Other than that, like behind him, it gets a little bit ugly. Van Jefferson, you're not banking on that. Roman Wilson, solid pick, but you're not chasing that to your volume points. Pat Freiermuth should be set up to have another solid season by tight end standards.
Love it.
What you're really getting here towards is Jalen Warren and Najee Harris splitting running back work. And if one of those guys can take over the backfield, then you're in good shape. But Najee's not been efficient, and Warren got into that last year, and all of a sudden you
Warren
got two
had
RB2s.
Warren had 74 targets last year.
It's good.
6.1 yards per reception.
It's probably why they brought in Cordero
60
Patterson.
61 catches for 370 yards. It's fucking wild.
It's
I
terrible.
don't think you'll ever imagine. That is so bad. But
But
I
hey,
like both running backs. I honestly,
it's because we know they're going to run the football 4,000 times. So,
but what we don't know is when who's going to run the ball. Because
it's going to be both of them.
Yeah, but when at the same time, it's just gonna just keep handing the ball off to each other while they run.
Right. Just passing it back and forth as they go down the field.
No, you have it. Yeah.
Cordero's out there somewhere. Cordero's out there somewhere in the middle. Like, what about me? What about me?
Guys, I'm open.
All right. That's our show. Thank you for tuning in. Catch us sometime next week. We're going to talk. I don't know what division it is. AFC East or South? Probably the East. At a 50-50 shot of getting it right. Do you think I got it right? I didn't. It's the East.
Maybe.
It's the East.
You got it right.
There you go. All right. AFC East coming up next. See ya.
Yep.
Ugh.